could count every time that I fall in. Even when I'm in so deep, it gets hard to see you're still all in. I've been lost by myself in the darkness. Know that I can find my way even on the days when it's hardest. But I still need you. Please, my love, hold me when the lightning strikes. Lead me home, and I don't know which way is right. Love me when it's hard, I promise that I'm not leaving by my side. And when I fall apart, promise in the dark, you'll be by my side.
After your Utah virtual wedding ceremony, you and your spouse are going to want to submit your report of marriage, or ROM, paperwork to the Philippine government. In order to do this, you must submit your ROM paperwork to the Philippine Consulate that has jurisdiction over the state of Utah, which happens to be the San Francisco Philippine Consulate General. Go to their website, pcgsanfrancisco.org. Then go to the Services tab and find Report of Marriage. Clicking on this drop-down will show you the requirements for submitting your ROM. Please note that every document that you submit should be original or a certified true copy. This includes the marriage certificate and birth certificate. You're going to arrange these documents into sets of 5 according to the order that's on the screen. Make sure to include one cover letter indicating your request to report a marriage with your contact information like your cell phone number, email address, and permanent address. You can use either spouse's information. When filling out the ROM, entries must be typewritten or printed legibly in black ink. Entries should be made in the exact format indicated on the ROM form. The wife should use her maiden name. For the civil status of both husband and wife, indicate if single, annulled, divorced, or widowed. Entries must be at the time of marriage of the spouses. Since we will be submitting our ROM form by mail, Item 20 on all 5 duly accomplished ROM forms must be notarized by a notary public. The easiest way to do this is to have the Filipino spouse print 5 copies of the completed ROM form, take it to a notary public, sign in front of the notary. That way the notary can stamp the Filipino spouse's signature. The Filipino should then send all the forms to the spouse outside of the Philippines, who can then take their ROM forms to a notary public, sign it, and get a second notary stamp on all 5 of the forms. It's important to mention that you cannot make copies of the notary stamp. All 5 forms must have an original notary stamp on them. The next thing that you need is 5 photocopies of your apostille marriage certificate. I would include the front cover page, your actual marriage certificate, and also the stamp on the back of the certificate. You then need 5 photocopies of the birth certificate of both the husband and wife, and make sure for the Filipino national that you use a PSA authenticated birth certificate, and for the foreign national, a birth certificate issued by the country of birth. Next, you need to include 5 photocopies of valid passports of both the husband and wife. When you do this, make sure you copy your biography page and your signature page. And then for the Filipino national, you may need to include proof of Philippine citizenship. Usually the birth certificate is sufficient. You may need to add something else. Next would be any additional requirements for any divorced, annulled, or legally separated Filipino spouses. You may also want to include a sinomar, or a certificate of no marriage. And finally, the processing fee. The fee for the report of marriage is $25. The fee is non-refundable and should be made payable to the Philippine Consulate General. This has to be in a money order, a bank draft, a certified check, or cashier's check. They do not accept cash, personal checks, or credit and debit cards. The last item that you have to add is not listed on the Philippine Consulate's website. It is a marriage affidavit. Basically what this is a letter containing your information, your spouse's information, and a brief paragraph explaining that your marriage ceremony was conducted virtually in the city of Provo, in the state of Utah, in the United States. And that since your wife was not present in the United States at the time of marriage, she had no U.S. visa. You must also get this notarized in the United States. It does not have to be notarized in the Philippines. The next step where you actually mail in the form is where it might get a little tricky, based on the non-Filipino spouse's location. For this example, we're going to use the United States. In the package that you send the Philippine Consulate General, you must include a self-addressed stamped envelope for your return documents. The easiest way to do this is go to the U.S. Post Office and get a flat rate envelope and fill out your return address and get a tracking number on it, and then pay for it. The self-addressed stamped envelope will remain empty and will accompany all of your ROM forms and all the paperwork that you're sending to the consulate into another envelope. I would suggest using a larger padded flat rate envelope also from the post office. Mail your package to the address shown on the website, and if the consulate has any questions, they'll contact you at the number you provided in your cover letter. In about a month, the Philippine Consulate General will mail you back your original documents and the original report of marriage contracted abroad form in the self-addressed stamped envelope that you provided them. It may take up to 6 months for you to order an authenticated copy of the report from the Philippine Statistics Authority. So to conclude, you're going to need your cover letter, your marriage affidavit, and 5 sets of your ROM with all required documents.